Our guest today is one of the world's leading scholars on Hindu philosophy and Vaishnava traditions. Dr. Kenneth Valpey is a research fellow at the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, where his work has helped shape international scholarship on Hinduism, yoga, ethics, and the relationship between spirituality and contemporary global issues. Today we'll explore one of his most thought-provoking areas of research, the connection between yoga and our ethical relationship with animals. Can an ancient spiritual tradition shape the way we think about compassion, responsibility, and our place within the living world? That's what we are hoping to find out today. Dr. Valpey, what in your view constitutes a rational and balanced approach to the ethical treatment of animals?
A rational and balanced approach to the ethical treatment of animals would first of all begin with understanding rationally our own identity. To what extent can we understand ourselves as being distinct from animals, and in what way can we understand that we have commonalities with animals? That's one of the subjects that I discuss in this book, Yoga and Animal Ethics. We might first ask, what is ethics? And I would say, and I think this goes back to Immanuel Kant, the question of ethics is the question, what should I do? What should I do? There's the question, what exists? And there's the question, how do I know? And then the ethical question is, what should I do? So when we talk about animal ethics, we're asking, what should I, or what should we, what should human beings do in relation to animals? And here I think an important word is relationality. Can we act in ways which develop our possibilities of relating with animals in ways other than keeping our distance from them or destroying them? So relationality we're familiar with when we speak about pets, but there's a kind of irrational gap, I think we could say, between our understanding and often very strong emotions in relation to pets, or what are called companion animals in animal ethics discourse. There's a gap between that sensibility and the sensibility we have about what we call wild animals or free-roaming animals or farm animals, animals that we consume, essentially. So I would say that rationality with regard to ethics is, first of all, a question of asking ourselves, who are we? What makes us distinct, if anything, from, we say, non-human animals? That would be the sort of basic starting point for discussing rationality.
What specifically, before we dwell deeper into this topic, what specifically makes us distinct from non-human animals, as you said?
According to the Indian yoga tradition, what makes us distinct from animals, first of all, what do we have in common? We can say there are basically four activities that we all have. We are all engaged in eating, we have to sleep, there is mating, and there is defense. All animals, including human beings, are involved in these four activities. And what makes us distinct, a specific term, Sanskrit term, is used, and that is dharma. Dharma comes from a term which means to sustain. So a big concern in our world today is how can our societies, our culture, be sustainable. And the yoga tradition would say, first of all, understand that we as human beings have a dharma, which means, in a broader sense, duty. We have a sensibility which enables us to act using rationality, using reason, in ways which involve, to a large extent, restraining ourselves from our natural tendencies, our animal tendencies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending.
Many people come from different religious and cultural traditions that are not strictly vegetarian. How do these ethical concerns that we're talking about relate to these cultures?
Yes, well, you bring up vegetarianism, and that's indeed what a lot of this boils down to, veganism. That is a question of what do we eat and what do we not eat. And so bringing up the subject of religious traditions which are, as you said, not strictly vegetarian, I think a first point to make is that there are practitioners of the various religious traditions, the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, who are vegetarian or vegan. And they base their practice of vegetarian or veganism on their particular scriptures. They have scriptural basis for maintaining such diet. The traditions also have concessions, and that's also true in the Hindu tradition. It's recognized, these traditions are realistic, that people have a strong inclination to eat meat, and so there will be concessions. In Hindu tradition, the concession comes in the form of processes for the killing of an animal, which makes it into a ritual. And that ritual is something which is public, unlike present-day slaughterhouse culture in which everything is hidden. This would be in a visible arrangement so that one has a sense of the significance of what is happening, that one is taking a life which is in fact not necessary to take. So with regard to the various traditions, I would say there are various concessions, but all of these concessions, my understanding is, if one looks carefully into them, one will see the preference is for the minimizing, if not complete avoiding, of the killing of animals. So we have in the Hebrew Bible the Ten Commandments, one of which is "Thou shalt not kill," as we learned in Old English when I was a child. And my understanding is it says "Thou shalt not kill," not "Thou shalt not murder." Murder applies to the killing of human beings outside of the context of a war. Killing is a much broader term. So there are such restrictions, I believe, in all religious traditions. And the idea in the Hindu tradition of understanding the principle, which is sustainability in practical ways and in a deeper sense, sustaining our spirit to develop our higher purpose of life.
What might one expect if they were to take up this form of lifestyle or apply these traditions that you are promoting? Or maybe what would they give up on the other hand?
I think it's somewhat individual. What is gained by taking, you mentioned lifestyle. So it is, in fact, a kind of lifestyle commitment that people make, indeed, to being vegetarian or being vegan. And what is gained by that, first of all, I would say, and this is something everyone can relate to, is better health. Lots of studies have been done, scientific studies, which indicate that we do better with an essentially vegetarian, or some will say lacto-vegetarian diet, than consumption of animal flesh. So health is one principle. I would say also a sense of, let's call it moral relief or lightness, a sense that I am minimizing my moral footprint. We use that term a lot nowadays in terms of carbon footprint or whatever. So there can be a sense of a lightness in one's outlook, if you like, in relation to not just humans, but all living beings. As far as what might be lost, there is a risk, unfortunately, in present-day society that one risks losing one's social comfort zone. It's a bit of a social commitment one makes, to which those who practice this, vegetarian, vegan, especially yoga culture practice, to help oneself, to help in sustaining this lifestyle, is to seek out people of a similar lifestyle, to seek out the friendship with those who are practicing the same culture. As we say in English, birds of a feather flock together. And perhaps you have a saying also in Bosnian similar to that.
We have somewhat similar, but so other than, I would say, these, let's say, internal factors, internal changes, I think this lifestyle also has some external factors, like you said, socialization, birds of the same flock. But also, how would this lifestyle, if more people were to take it up, affect the environment, the economy, our style of living altogether?
Yes. For that, I would like to share some statistics, if I may, refer to something which I have yet to memorize, I must say. But let's talk first of all about land use. So we can find this on the internet, this is public knowledge, that the Earth's surface includes some 29% land. Of that 29% land, 76% is habitable. It can be resided on by human beings. Of that 76%, 45% is available, is used for agriculture, and 38% is forests, and 13% what they call shrub. Of the 45%, 80% is used for livestock, for meat, for dairy, and for textiles, leaving only 16% for crops for food. Of the 80% of this agriculture land, this produces 17% of the calorie energy that we human beings consume in the world.
So it takes up 80% but produces only 17%.
Only 17%. 83% comes from plant-based food, and that 83% is coming from 16% of the agriculture land.
So we could say basically that it's very ineffective in the calorie intake calculation. Calorie intake
and also protein. And it's said generally a 20-to-1, differential. When we take X amount of land and grow food on it and directly process that for human consumption, it will take 20 times that amount to feed the animals for us to take the same food benefit. So if a larger percentage of people would take, if not entirely to a vegetarian, to a significantly more vegetarian culture, which is not foreign to society. If we go back 100 years, people were eating much less meat than they are today. If we would go back, if we would follow a significantly more vegetarian diet, we could feed more people on the planet. There are now, as we speak, close to 1 billion people who are undernourished on the planet. Of 8.3 billion people, close to 1 billion people are not getting enough to eat. So that would be a significant change, and that would be significant, and you could say a measurable transformation. And out of that, I would say we could have a more peaceful planet, because the scarcity which builds the tension out of which wars are produced would be reduced.
When we talk about this ethical relationship towards animals, does it always just boil down to vegetarianism, or are there different levels of the ethical relationship towards animals?
It's to a large extent, it does have to do with what we consume, and what we consume is very much what we put in our mouths. However, there are many areas of animal ethics which are not directly related to that. One of them is animal experimentation. There's, I forget the numbers now, but I think it's close to 100 million animals per year are used in animal experiments that are then destroyed after the experiments. And there's more and more evidence that the actual benefit of such experimentation, because of the transfer of there may be some limited parallels between the functioning of an animal, non-human animal, and a human, but those are very limited. And there's more and more technological development, computer simulation and things of that sort, which make animal experimentation less and less arguable, I would say, like that. There are many questions about the use of animals, the confinement of animals. Animals that are being raised for food, how they are being confined. Pigs being confined in stalls which are hardly bigger than the animal themselves. And these sorts of concerns are addressed by animal activists today. Also, I was reading some here in Bosnia and Herzegovina are active in these matters. So yes, there are areas of concern. There is also the concern about animals going toward extinction, which is very much also related to human agriculture. And so the way in which we use our land, the way we use the soil, and how the soil is becoming in huge quantities every year destroyed throughout the planet. All of these have interconnection in ways that bring us back to questions of how we relate with animals, how we understand ourselves as beings in relation to other kinds of beings.
And what role does consumer behavior play in all of this? Does it just create a never-ending circle of this unethical treatment of animals? Can we influence the treatment of animals through our consumer behavior?
That's a question that I'm often asking myself. And this is, you could say, why myself, but many others also try to write on the subject in the hopes that some influence can be there over time. A lot of work has been done. My book in particular is one title within a book series by Palgrave Macmillan called Animal Ethics. It has over 50 titles at present. These are sort of addressing a more academic level of study. But much writing, especially, and much speaking on the internet now, I would say, is becoming more and more vocal. And the aim is to get people thinking, first of all. Could it be possible to make some shift in my consumer habits? Is it possible to elevate our moral imagination? This is an expression that's used a lot in ethical philosophy, to consider, is there another way to act? Is there a better way to act than simply out of habit? And this kind of comes back to what I mentioned earlier about this gap between how we relate with our domestic animals at home, our pets, our pet dogs and cats, and how we relate with other animals. If we can rethink or based on our experience, our relation with animals that we have an emotional connection with, can we extend that sense to other animals rather than blocking out of habit the thinking? Can we cultivate a different taste, not a lesser taste, I should say, but a slightly different taste, which doesn't demand to have meat on the tongue, and by making such a shift, gradually change consumer habits.
I think that's a perfect way to end this interview and leave our viewers with something to think about, because, as you said, we also have and we also share a sense of responsibility through our consumer behavior, most notably when it comes to the ethical treatment of animals.
Indeed.
Thank you, Dr. Valpey.
Thank you.